Thank you all. Please be seated. So things are a little bit different this morning. We'll have a very modified, condensed kind of chapel service, and then we have sports colors, and then after that, a special surprise, as some of you may know about. So I did want to talk for a few minutes. This past week, our neighbors south of the border celebrated what they called Absurdity Day. And it was a day when people were encouraged to behave strangely and wear wacky clothes and things like that. And I heard that and I thought, well, we do that all the time. We call it Black and Gold Day or Chapel, one or the other. So I've been thinking about absurdity this week. And our world, of course, is full of absurdity. Our history, those of you who study history know that history is full of absurdity. People going to war because the name that we have for our loving and compassionate God is different than the name you use for the loving, compassionate God. So this gives us an opportunity to massacre one another. Things like this, the fact that we treat other people as somehow inferior to us because of cosmetic things, because of difference in skin color or hair or even in beliefs and things like that. These, to me, are all absurd notions. This is the definition of absurdity, the way that human beings treat each other sometimes. And, of course, in our own lives, we experience all kind of absurdity as well, don't we? I mean, we feel alone and want to connect with people, so we lock ourselves up in our room sometimes, or we decide we're going to go on a diet, so we start by eating every potato chip we can find in our room. All these things that we always seem to be doing the things that we don't want to do and not doing the things that we feel that we do want to do. So sometimes we feel maybe like we just want to throw our hands in the air and say, things are so absurd that, what is the point of going on? Anybody had that feeling? Probably lately, yeah, some nodding heads. So there's a French novelist and philosopher named Albert Camus who wrote during and after World War II, so he really knew about absurdity. I mean, a time when absurdity was kind of the rule of the day. And he was so interested in this idea that he developed a philosophy, and he called it absurdism. That was the philosophy of absurdism. And Camus was kind of extreme in his belief. He believed that there is no meaning in life, that there's no meaning in the universe, everything is senseless, and you can kind of understand him having come through World War II that he might feel that way. So I don't follow Camus all the way to that the universe is a senseless void. Some days, certainly it does feel that way, but I do believe that there's meaning in life. Of course. But having said that, Camus has some ideas that are really, I think, really helpful in terms of how do we deal with the absurdity of life. And as I say, right now, with all that's going on, I think some of us feel kind of almost absurdity fatigue in some ways, don't we? Everything seems so crazy. So Camus makes a couple of points. One thing he says is, look, let's not pretend like things are different than they are. First thing he talks about is this kind of radical honesty. And he says it's very hard to look at life and not sugarcoat it or pretend like it is different than it is, or kind of just what we do mostly probably is just not look at things that are difficult to look at. Camus says look life right in the face. Have the courage to be honest enough to acknowledge the way that life is and that sometimes it doesn't really make sense. But he says this is a very difficult thing to do. He says truth, he's kind of being a little ironic. He says, truth like light blinds. Falsehood is a beautiful twilight that enhances every object. So he says it's very easy for us to kind of gloss over reality. So that's the first thing he says, honesty. And that's, of course, something that we hold, as a very core value here. To some degree, we're all as honest as we can be. Camus says, let's try and be really radically honest. The other thing he says is, for him, because there's not a lot of meaning in the world, he says the response to the lack of meaning is to be meaning makers. And I think, as I say, I might not agree with him that there's no meaning, but I do agree with him that sometimes we seek meaning outside, we often seek meaning outside of ourselves. We look to other people to make sense out of life. And Camus says, no, we're all, if we're going to be responsible human beings, it's up to us to make meaning, to bring meaning to life, to be meaning makers. Does that make sense? And out of that, he says, that if we're going to be authentic, truly authentic, authenticity was a big thing for him. If we're going to be real, if we're going to be authentically who we are, then we can't continue to look outside ourselves for meaning. So at one point, there was a group of French monks that invited Camus in, even though he was an atheist and everything. They said, "Look, we want to hear from you." So he went and he spoke to this group of French monks, and he said, "Let me ask you a question. Here's the big question." He said, "If you knew tomorrow that there was no heaven and hell, would you still live the way you're living now? Would you act the way you're acting now? Would you have this community life that you have now and pray if you knew there was no God?" He said, because if you are only living the way you are because of some fear of punishment or hope for reward, he says, that's, you have to ask yourself whether that's really an authentic life. So he said, we have to find our meaning, our values, what is most important to us deep inside ourselves. And again, something that I think we value in this community. So being authentic, being honest, Camus says, leads to some very nice results, very harsh in some ways to get there, but he says that the only way for us to really be free human beings is to follow this path of authenticity and honesty. He also says, I think this might be interesting, that it's only through this kind of path of honesty and authenticity and being who we truly are, it's only through that path that we can find our own passions. And he was very big on that. That creative passion grows out of our honesty with who we are and our ability to truly be ourselves. And that's the only way we can kind of discover our passion. I know a lot of people, a lot of you are are on that path. Well, what is my passion in life? Camus says, be yourself, then you'll find your passion. So absurdity has, many ways of thinking about it, many forms. Camus says that what's really absurd is a life lived in dishonesty and self-deception and looking for meaning from others, and that the opposite really is the way to go. And as I thought about this, I thought this is really the definition in some ways of what we talk about when we talk about one of our four values, the value of courage. That when we talk about courage here, I think it's really what we're talking about, the courage to be who we are, not in opposition to others, because it's when we truly know who we are that we can allow other people to be themselves as well. And I think this is part of the problem with discrimination and violence and what we see in the world today is people just don't know themselves, and so they lash out at others. So being ourselves is really what allows us to bring out the best in others, allow others to be themselves as well. So that's enough for me. I'll just end with this kind of radical quote from Camus, but I thought I would use it anyways. He says, "The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion." So there's some things to think about. And I'm going to invite Ashley to she's going to come up and she's going to provide our musical presentation this morning.
Hi, my name's Ashley. I'll be playing the piano today. It's called Canon in D by John Pachelbel. The reason why I chose this piece is because it's my parents' favorite piece that I've ever played. I hope you enjoy and thank you.
hope you told your dad to watch this morning, did you? That's so great. Thank you. That's beautiful. I'm going to invite McKinley to come and lead us in the prayers.
We take a moment to think about those in need in our families and in the world. Please respond to the bidding, Lord, in your mercy, with hear our prayer. We pray for our families in thanksgiving for their love and support, for their health and safety, and for their happiness. Lord, in your mercy. We pray for those suffering with COVID and for the scientists researching a response to the Omicron variant. Lord, in your mercy. We pray for peace within and among nations, for an era of peace and creativity. Lord, in your mercy. We pray for those suffering as a result of extreme weather in our province. Lord, in your mercy. We pray for ourselves, that we may continue to be respectful and caring in every situation in which we find ourselves. Lord, in your mercy. We take a brief moment to consider any other needs in our heart. Lord, in your mercy.
Thank you, McKinley. So as we often say, one of the things that we gather in chapel is to celebrate our successes and to recognize one another's accomplishments. So this morning, we're going to do that. We're going to have the awarding of sports colors. So I'd like to invite Mr. Murdy and Ms. Conroy to come forward, please.
Gotta put the glasses on. One of the many joys of getting older. My partner's pretty shy back there, so she'll join us in a moment. I just need to make a couple of comments just before I start. Firstly, hearing Ashley play just reminds me, and then hearing the prayers and that, just what a special place this is, and how talented the kids are in this school. And that's obviously leading into our sports colors, celebrating their talents. But it's a pretty amazing place to be a part of, and you should all be very proud of yourselves. Be proud of the way you handled or have handled, continue to handle all the adversity that we face, whether it be weather conditions or whether it be still dealing with COVID and its the implications that it has on our lives. And you're all very strong young people, so be proud of yourselves and just keep moving forward. It's been a really great start to this. Well, most importantly, it's just great to be back playing sport. And last year, again, for those students that were here, you did an admirable job of continuing on, making the best of the situation, competing internally, and striving to make yourselves better, stronger through your training. And now we're actually back to competing. So it's fantastic to watch you guys, and hopefully for you as competitors, you're enjoying the opportunity to actually test yourselves against opponents from other schools and all the challenges that those bring for you. So today we're awarding our first term sport colors. Sport colors are awarded at the junior level to grade 10s, and they need to receive 2 nominations. So today, the juniors will be receiving their first nomination, so they don't actually receive their color pins yet today. The senior colors, you can receive a senior colors tie for each term. So if you're committed enough, talented enough, work hard enough, you can receive up to a triple colors tie, which doesn't happen very often, but it's an amazing accomplishment when it does. So the general criteria for colors are that they're awarded to students who display strong skills, sportsmanship, provide significant leadership to their team, and always bring a positive attitude to both practice and competition. So there's fairly extensive criteria that the coaches go through, and then they make the recommendations, and then we discuss the names, and then the final decision is made on who we're going to present the colors to. So hopefully that's a good explanation as to what it takes to receive this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through all the grade 10 students' names who are receiving their first nomination. In boys soccer, Xavier Jimenez, Santiago Roque, Franco Slim, Jensen Wong, that's for soccer. For junior girls field hockey, Lena Bunzel, Eva Clausen, Abby Fahey, Donica Adelberg, Sophia Jacobek, Greta Mule, Ella Rush, Nell Crosdale. For junior volleyball, Maya Leader, Ella Hudon, Ella Anstey, Georgia Gilmore, Annika Place, Ali Strongman, and Kanya Manjand Jalama. And now we're going to be moving into our senior colors. So just prior to doing that, I'm going to invite the head of the school, Mr. Lamont, to come forward. He has a significant presentation that he would like to make.
Thanks, Mr. Murdy. Who can tell me what the school motto is? Sarah. Parmam qui merit ferret. And what does it translate as, Sarah? Whoever bears the palm, wears the palm, may bear it. And it actually goes back to the time of Nelson in the early 1800s, the admiral, and it was all in relation to the Battle of the Nile, where there were palm trees in Egypt, but he had it added to his crest for winning that particular naval battle. And it very much speaks to the ethos of the school. And I thought I'd just say this, Mr. Murdy, before we distribute the sports colours, that it does speak to individual achievement and success. But the secret sauce to Shawnigan is it also speaks to, and the Rev and I talk about this a lot when we were thinking about the relevance of our motto from back in 1916 and what it means today in 2021, but it also means the celebration not only of your own achievements, but the achievements of others. And that is the magic ingredient of Shawnigan, that we take great pride in the success of others around us. And I ask you to bear that in mind during the course of this ceremony. The second piece I want to talk to is, I'm biased, I'm a field hockey coach, and we did have the BC Provincials during the November break. I had the great pleasure of coaching with Miss Conroy, the senior coach. I probably was the best paid bull boy in British Columbia. I was, during the course of the season, promoted up to be the goalkeeper coach, and maybe finally on the last day I made it to assistant coach. But our girls at the BC Provincials agonizingly fell at that hurdle before stepping into the semi-finals. Crofton beat us in a thrilling penalty shootout, condemning us to a mid-league rather than the semi-finals, which we had dreamt of. But to our great surprise, we were at the end of the tournament given a trophy. And again, it speaks to a Shawnigan tradition. So this trophy was for fair play out of the 12 teams performing over two days. And Shawnigan has always had that reputation. We play hard, but we're fantastic hosts before and after the game, and that we believe in fair play. So I'm going to just pick up the trophy. Here we go, the Jenny John Fair Play Award, and it was dedicated to Jenny John, whose passion for field hockey is everlasting. This plaque is awarded to the team who best demonstrates at the tournament integrity, fairness, respect, and fair play, something I believe all our teams aspire to. And I've held this back from handing it out at lunch to this particular ceremony, and I'd like the whole school to join me in congratulating that senior field hockey team for bringing a trophy back to Shawnigan. And I'd like Catherine, Ash, and Sarah Hill, the captains, to come up and receive this from Miss Conroy. Come on up. Well done, guys. Back to Mr. Murdy.
Thank you. Obviously, it was an amazing accomplishment by the senior girls field hockey team, and we had a number of other significant accomplishments. The senior girls volleyball won their opening tournament up at Duncan Christian, which was a fantastic way to start off the school year, and the senior boys soccer won the bronze medal at the ISA championships. Obviously the girls field hockey we mentioned had an incredible run at the provincial tournament, and I think the drama of the big game versus Crofton doesn't really paint enough of a picture of just how hard and competitive our girls were. They did an amazing job in all of their games, and can be and should be very proud of themselves, as well as all of our other teams, the grade 8 and 9 boys with rugby. Many of them for the first time even seeing a rugby ball, showing the courage it takes to get out there and put their bodies on the line and make a tackle, and really showing incredible improvement and a lot of growth as teams and as young rugby players. So lots of great stuff going on all of our different sporting venue or surfaces and facilities, and lots more to come. Again, we're going to carry on, as I mentioned, with the senior colors, and some coaches are here, some coaches are not here, because obviously with the chapel being back into full chapels for the first time last week, and some staff just may not be here for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to ask coaches to come up. If they're not here, that's fine. If there are other, potentially, if, for example, with soccer, if the senior coaches aren't here, if there's a junior coach, if they could come up and join us in the presentation of that sports ties. So we're going to start off with senior soccer. I know, actually, because I spoke to them on the phone, Mr. Sturrock and Miss Salzberg are sick, but is Mr. Fraser here by any chance? Mr. Fraser, if you could join us, that would be great, please. Thank you, sir. Comedians behind me. Receiving their senior colors for soccer, Kyle Kwok, Lucas Clausen, Diego Tame, Jimmy Adamola, James Bryant, Ricardo Ortega Navarro, and Robin Zhu. Thank you, and good job, guys. Our next team to receive their senior color recognition is field hockey, and we have the coaches on stage here with Ms. Conroy and Mr. Lamont. So, receiving their senior colors tie, Catherine Ash, Taylor Buttle, Sarah Dryden, Erica Hurchin, Sarah Hill, Haruka Agawa, Anna Palmer, Asia Rennie, Kylan Russell, McKinley Bourne, and Michaela Rush.
Okay, well done, fine achievement. Oh, well done, McKinley. Very, why are you not wearing your new earrings? Oh, Hush. Nice to meet you, Hush. I'm the little boy. Well done, well done, well done. Matt, Karoon? Very good. You know who's going to give you that trophy? Okay. Okay, you're on time. What are you doing here? I'm surprised you remembered. Well done. See you tomorrow. Andy, you in the state? Okay, I will go down a level.
Our next sport that we're recognizing is cross-country running, so can Mr. Swanall please come join us on the stage. This past term was the competitive term for cross-country, and Mr. Swanall's group did an amazing job competing in a number of runs, and they continue to run in I guess they're called fun runs. I'm not sure that there's that many actual fun runs, but I think they have fun, even on Christmas Day. Yes, takes a different person, very driven. Receiving their athletic colors for cross country, Charlie Bassant, Jason Huang, and Victoria Q. And we have one final team to recognize, and that's our senior girls volleyball. So Mr. Colton is here. I'm not sure if Mrs. Pasquale is, but Mr. Venables, if you could join us up here as well as one of the volleyball coaches for the school in this presentation, that'd be great. Thank you. As I mentioned at the start, earlier, the senior girls had a fantastic season and started off with a great showing, winning their opening tournament at Duncan Christian, and then followed on with a really good and competitive season. Receiving senior colors, Leah Labarsky, Abby Rademacher, and Jani Zhang. I'm assuming by Jenny's dress, she's involved with what's happening afterwards when this part of the Caledonian Society. Yes, I'm not sure what that is, but it's something where you wear your pajamas to. So anyhow, I just want to finish off by saying how grateful I am, and hopefully all of you are as well, to all of our coaches, support staff, school administration, everybody that it takes and allows us to run such a successful and rewarding athletic program. There's amazing talent in this room, amazing talent at the school, amazing talent off with teams right now, and their passion and their time and their love for sport, hopefully you enjoy that enthusiasm and it rubs off on you. And if I can just ask you all to please just join me in giving all of those groups, the coaches, support staff, and admin, a nice round of applause to show our gratitude. Over to you, Rev. Oh, over to the headmaster. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Murdy. I think that's my most enjoyable athletics awards ceremony since I started as head. So thanks for doing that and doing that in that spirit. And I just also want to comment about poor Ashley Mack. It just reminds me, Ashley, look, you're absolutely horrified that I'm going to speak about you. It just reminds me how multi-talented you all are. Some of you might know, you just heard Ashley on the piano, but also she was one of the playmakers in the girls' senior field hockey as well. Extremely talented student, as you all are. I think what we're going to do now is finish with a hymn, and then we're going to stop the live stream, and then we're going to hand over to the prefects for Snowfest and is it a new word I've created in my own mind about promposals, etc. So I think we're going to go for a hymn. Which hymn is it?
The school hymn.
And this gives me an opportunity for a little bit of chapel etiquette. So I'm going to say hymn number 1, and the trick here is to quietly pick the hymnal up, don't talk to your friend, and stand in silence. And I think we can do that. 3, 2, 1. You make MCB's heart sing. Over to you, Ms. Terrell. Please be seated. And just to echo that, thanks, Miss Tyrrell. Our organist has been a little bit unwell.